There's no way. It's way too much damage. Stop him with the block! He felt charged up!
Oh, and he found
wow.
Wow.
Oh,
And he gets out!
Somewhere there's a covert muffin just applauding this seed.
Holy crap.
Oh man, this is gonna come down to execution in the final escape, isn't it?
Sure is.
Every seed
Our
does.
favorite phrase.
Hello and welcome everyone to the first of this weekend's matches for the 2021 Ori Randomizer tournament. This one is featuring Romulus versus Sirius. My name is of course Jamal116 and I am joined by Apple today on commentary. Apple, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good. We've had a really nice sunny day here. It's a bit sad that I'm stuck in front of a computer now, but that doesn't matter because we have a really exciting race coming up. Romulus versus Sirius here should be a lot of fun. I got to talk with Romulus a little bit before starting, and he said he's feeling a little bit nervous because Sirius is a very strong opponent, but he's been practicing quite a bit, so he feels like he should be able to put on a good show and a good fight. And he really wants to find the skills for stomp cancels and bash glides because he feels he's very comfortable with them and should be able to finish a seed very nicely with those. And he doesn't really want to see any late dungeon keys. The mad dash at the end to find them is not what he's looking for here.
Sirius, meanwhile, is in a kind of similar situation as far as what he wants to see in the seed, right? He likes getting fast seeds, thinks he has the mechanical advantage, and so is really just going to use those skills to play well. With that said, he hasn't had too much practice recently, and so is probably not going to play super aggressive, is really just going to try to avoid getting randoed and avoid some of the particularly risky or tricky tricks. With that said, it is a well-known fact within the Ori community that SpeedGen is actually capable of reading your mind, and because both of our runners want and expect a dash seed with lots of fun tech, that naturally means that we are going to get a 60-minute slogfest of absolutely clearing the right side of the map. So I'm excited to see what SpeedGen has in store as we are getting into our race and our runners are going to start kicking off.
That would be very interesting. Seeing a full clear with a minimal skill set is fun and interesting, but also very painful for our runners. So maybe we'll not wish that on them, at least.
For their sake, I'm sure that's not what they're wanting to see. With that said, they are getting to our first pickup. It is just a keystone, pretty standard start at this point. We'd expect to see more coming along, although there, of course, is the opportunity for perhaps a wall interaction or a power skill. This is, of course, a standard seed. There are no variants here, no special flags, no bonus pickups, nothing like that. It is a normal seed, normal force trees with a normal clue system, very similar to other races you may have seen. So our runners not opting for shenanigans in this case, just hoping to have a solid race throughout.
Yeah, we're just finding some XP here underneath where we're gonna find our trusty companion sign. So that means our runners will have to head into the Glades area first. Check those 2 pickups that are still logically available to them. If they find another keystone, they can continue. If they find some sort of skill, they can turn back and head into Blackroot. Let's see what we find here. What do you think?
You know, I think it's been a while since I've actually just seen, the double keystone start. I've been playing a lot of seeds myself with, weird teleporter progression or, head to Blackroot first. I think I'd like to just see it, there we go, second keystone. Just head on over, make our runners get to that wall jump tree first and just see what skills we end up getting on our way over.
Did you talk with SpeedGen before this? Because you seem to know a very big amount about this seed already.
I am one with SpeedGen. I have just embraced it at this point. Right. We do see, of course, both our runners checking this underwater pickup out of logic because the water is not yet clean. It does damage to them, and the ability cell that they found is both not useful and not in logic. With that said, what is in logic is that Valley Teleporter pickup that our runners have just found up there. There's not too much that they can do with that at this point, given that they don't have any abilities, but that is early left side access, and depending on what our runners get, they may opt to go there early, maybe make an aggressive play for left side trees once they get some power skills.
Depending on what skills they find, things on the left side might actually be in logic earlier than most of the right side. We have, I think, 2 pickups left on Sirius's side, who's just a little bit ahead of Romulus here. And so far, he hasn't really found much. Oh no, there's Clem. Okay, well, there go my hopes of interesting starts.
I mean, there is still a potential interesting start with, you know, the Black Root climb ramp at this point. That's still always a thing that can happen, and we have seen be very relevant in later seeds. With that said, all it's going to do for us right now is put a couple more of these pickups around this loop that you see Sirius clearing and Romulus getting to now in logic. It does, of course, put Black Root into logic, but otherwise doesn't really give us much else. We've got some keystones to potentially go further up in Spirit Caverns, but no real noteworthy finds at this point.
Very slow, sort of standard start, just wall interaction. Gives us more than enough possibilities for the Seagen to hide other nice things. So yeah, interesting to see where our runners decide to go. Sirius has his first tree here, gets another keystone next to it. Does Alt R, let's see, does he go down to Blackroot? Looks like he will be. So leaving the Spirit Caverns on an island for now. Can of course always head back there later with all those keystones he already has. And Romulus now also getting that first tree. Will probably pick up the keystone too and maybe follow Sirius.
Yeah, I like this play from Sirius, seeing him go to Blackroot here. This is an area that you can clear almost completely with just climb. So getting it out of the way, getting the tree at the back there is a good idea, whereas you might expect to want to use those keystones you found to actually advance past Spirit Caverns. You might expect to have to go to the Sea Flame tree, maybe to the Grove Teleporter, and potentially if we get Blue Break into Grove itself. And so I think saving that play for later to kind of minimize that backtracking is a good idea here, as we see Sirius making progress through Blackroot, and on the left you see Romulus a little bit behind, doing the save anywhere glitch to skip that cutscene that we've seen Sirius done already. Of course, being speedrunners, we are not about having lore in our races, and so we will go through extensive means to skip said lore, as we see our runners doing here.
You really have got it down with the predictions here. Sirius having just a little bit of trouble with that climb ramp. Gets it, I think that was the 3rd try, so not too much of a time sink there. Is rewarded with only another keystone. There are so many keystones here right now. He has 7 by now. So yeah, that Spirit Caverns trek is looking very tasty right now.
Yeah, it's looking very tasty for sure. I would think at this point, it's not necessarily what our runners would like to see. You know, at this point, with climb being our only skill, this is not exactly a powerful skill set that we have, and I think we're going to be looking for progression soon. We have those keystones right now, but that's only going to last us so long before there are more significant barriers that cannot be so easily circumvented that get in our path. So I think at this point it's going to be a lot of just digging until we find some skill, and until we find that skill, there's not too many places that are actually left in logic that could be.
Yeah, we have Sirius wandering through some auto-scroller here. Romulus still on his tail. He was a little bit quicker with that climb ramp. So we'll be catching up just a smidge. Still one auto-scroller behind. The platform's not being very kind to him there. But yeah, cycles are a thing.
Platforms in Blackroot are never kind, and neither is the slime, by the way. That slime Rom killed. I don't know what it is. It always seems to snipe me off these platforms. So glad to see it didn't do that to either runner, and of course, both runners managing to avoid the massive Blackroot pit below them as well. That jump is pretty tricky, much more difficult than it looks. So good to see that neither of them have fallen for the trap and had to, you know, reload a save or just accept the death.
Yeah, and on the right we have Sirius finding an out-of-logic energy cell, using another save anywhere to layer these cutscenes, so he will be able to move during this tree animation, pick up down in aforementioned pit, and then then decide, oh, well, he'll want to keep that. Yeah, leaving immediately. Alt-Ring, I don't know if he'll go back.
If he got the
Nope.
tree, which he did, there are no other pickups that are in
Oh,
logic
no,
right
going
now.
back
Ooh,
down.
he is
Yes,
going
but
back in.
there are tricks we always have up our sleeves to ignore their logic. Just so in this case as well.
Yeah,
And
so
he does seem to be heading back there.
it would appear so. So grenade, of course, is a good find. That is going to be something he wants to keep for sure. But until he finds more skills, it's not something that independently gives him progression at this point. The only logic at this point is still just, to go through Keystones and Spirit Caverns. So I think what he was doing there is really going to be farming XP because he needs another ability point once he gets down here in order to skip this boulder area. Now, once again, as I mentioned, this area is not in logic at all. There's a little micro ledge he's got to land on. He gets it first
Oh,
try. That's
wow.
very nicely done. But now he can get this out of logic pickup, use the ability point that he farmed off of these slimes to skip this boulder. It will just, now roll right over him without doing any damage whatsoever because physics makes sense in this video game, and he will be able to get these checks back here, step on the teleporter, and when he gets more skills later, we'll be able to come back and go straight to this teleporter to get to the grenade tree later in the seed.
Yeah, and on the left, Romulus almost falling into that pit. Saves himself with a nice climb up the ledge and is now following Sirius still. Will keep these... They're taking very, well, identical paths here, really, I suppose. Both of them with a very nice read on what is, quote-unquote, the best play to do here.
Yeah, now, ooh, I like this from Sirius. So this is a trick. He's going for the little grenade. If you pause it here, you can see the grenade starting to just push his platform up in a circle. He's going to use this to get up onto the platform up here. There is a grenade lantern that he can activate here. This is, of course, not in logic, but if he finds something, not just a keystone, which you've already got plenty of, but I am a big fan of that trick. I like seeing it done in a race, and it's pretty straightforward to do, actually, even with just grenade. So I like seeing it here, but with that said, we are now going to see him going to Spirit Caverns, or I guess rather he's got grenade now, he can go to Charge Flame Tree, 6 of one, half dozen of the other here. Finds dash, though. This is the first major find of the seed.
I'm sure both of them will be very happy when Romulus gets that as well. They did both wish for this kind of thing. Romulus setting up for the same trick here. Very fun to see. And there goes the platform.
Yep, it's really just a well-timed pause there that gets this to work. So pretty straightforward. But at this point, yeah, now we have dash. That does put, of course, the energy cell that our runners found behind the crushers in Blackroot in logic. So there are 3 energy in logic at this point. It is possible progression at this point for our runners to find a 4th energy cell and it be expected to go into Death Gauntlet through the door off spawn. It is, of course, also possible that's not what we're going to find, but it's, yeah, at this point, I'm not really sure. My read on this seed is no longer as confident as I was at the beginning. I don't know what we're gonna see next.
I'm wondering if Sirius is setting up for a key dupe here. He saved on the little log down before the entrance to this area. So I'm wondering if that was just happenstance or if he's planning something with that. We'll see in a moment.
Nope, doesn't
Nope.
look like it. Opting is said to use some of his 9 keystones to open this door. That is a very good number. He's not going to be he's not going to be struggling for keystones for this seed, most likely, as he's finding even more in Valley Entry. With that said, we did, while we were talking, get our first clue as our runners found their 3rd tree, and that clue was that the Gumon seal is in Sorrow, so perhaps not something our runners would be interested in seeing or want to see, but that is, of course, information that we have. On that note, Apple, do you want to explain how the clue system actually works?
Yeah, so we have 10 trees that we have to visit. So trees are the vanilla skill locations in the game. Technically it's 9 trees and a feather, but it's an honorary tree, so it's fine. And every 3 trees our runners collect, they will be given a clue to the location, so the general area of one of the dungeon keys. the which one that is random. So in this case, it was the Gumon seal. You could get the Sunstone or the Water Vein clue first. Siegen decided not to be nice today. And yeah, so they will have something of a help, so they don't have to search the entire map for those dungeon keys at the end if they still need them.
Yeah, that is of course going to speed up the seed a lot, and especially if our runner's not hoping to have to do a whole bunch of digging for keys at the end of the seed. It's a system that is very useful. We now see Sirius using that 4 energy that he found to open the Death Gauntlet door and make progression towards the Grotto Teleporter. There is a tree down here, there are lots of pickups down here. It is not too unlikely that we see progression, although at this point with, dash, ooh, Sirius actually opting not to skip this bridge here. That's an interesting play, I think. We typically see a lot of runners do a save anywhere to check the 2 pickups that are behind the bridge there, and instead just comes all the way down, perhaps making a very aggressive play straight for the tree, not expecting to have to or want to check many of these pickups.
Yeah. What's he doing with a save anywhere here? I'm not
He might
quite sure what he's planning here. I'm very interested to see this. This might be tech I'm not aware of.
My guess is he's just setting up for the ghost door, maybe, or he wants me. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
That could be, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, actually, the other thing that happened is, did he get a level up or find an ability cell here? Because he might have been saving that ability cell for Blue Tree, because he needs 2 to buy Air Dash, and is already full on that tree. So that would explain it if he just found that recently. But yeah, he might maybe be going for some blind movement on the tree down here. That's about the only thing I can imagine that he would need the Save Anywhere menu open at this point for.
Oh, Romulus taking a little bit of a jump into spikes here. There we go, gets over them this time. He did go back after opening this door to refill his energy. As we can see, probably a good play, as the water here hurts, and the slime hurts, and the Frankie hurts. This place isn't called Death Gauntlet for nothing, especially as he only has 3 health here.
This is not a trivial place to get up, and of course, I do want to point out, this is Sirius. I don't know what we were thinking about. He was doing that Save Anywhere just to get blind movement off the tree. I don't know what else we were expecting, quite frankly. But
yeah, and as we see, he now has that air dash, so can get around even quicker. Can check all these things he skipped on the first way down. And, ooh, we'll be going all the way up here as well. This is not the most fun pickup to get. These slimes are also... all slimes in this game are snipers, but these are very annoying as well. And he's making pretty quick work of this, and dash, of course, helps a lot. There we go. And, just gets XP for it.
yeah, I think at this point he's making a similar realization to what we've been saying, is that, at this point he needs logical progression. This is a pretty, good skill set for early game, but is not going to be enough for him to be able to finish, and so he's making some thorough checks, trying to just, find the progression that's in logic here. As I was starting to say earlier, with, dash, climb, blue break, pretty much the entirety of the right side of the map is in logic at this point. There's not too much that he can't check, and so I would expect at this point we're going to see a lot of our runners making similar checks, as you see Rom here, checking the same area that Sirius was just in. But I think, the early game progression here is just going to be a matter of which runner happens to make the correct check first.
Yeah, they have a lot in logic with this skill set. All of Outer Swamp Grove is, or well, not all of it, but most of it is in logic. Oh, we do find wall jump outside of logic. Swims are not part of the logic in standard, at least. Ouch. And it's... whoops. But yeah, wall jump is nice. It's not maybe what he's necessarily looking for, but it's always good to have.
It's comfy, it's definitely better than having climb alone for sure. With that said, there is one particular thing that climb is good for that might be of relevance, because our runners have 2 out of 3 pickups, I am noticing, for grenade jumps. And so if our last progression ends up being charge jump, this might become a very interesting seed very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Ooh, and it looks like Sirius is setting up. Wow, Beautiful. Gets it first try. Sets up that rock slide absolutely perfectly. And can just turn off this laser and push the little thing over to shoot the ceiling above him.
You really love to see it, but what you don't love to see is Romulus taking, I believe that is a second rough death on the left side of Grotto. Those spikes are not being kind to him. He's trying to make the play. Knows that I believe it is in logic with his skill set to get across those spikes, but in this case, no, looks like opting not to do that. It's pretty tricky with a skill set for sure, and is not usually something important, but we have seen things there before on this tournament, as we now see Romulus making similar play to what Sirius has already done, although at this point not having air dash, not having as comfy a skill set as Sirius does, is going to have a lot more difficult of a time making progress through here.
I'm not sure if he can actually get out of here. No, I think it's possible. It's just tight, and those spikes hurt. For some reason, well, I'm not quite sure where Sirius found the 2 more life he has currently over Romulus. So that is helping him there a little. Rom does decide to back out and come back. That is sometimes the easier play than being stuck on a trick for too long. And Sirius, did he not? Oh
So,
my.
Sirius,
he has lasers.
Yeah,
I haven't seen them in a very long time.
Yeah, I saw him make a save there. It looks like he just didn't do the skip correctly. I wonder if this at this point was intentional. He might not really intend. Oh wait, no. It looks like he did the skip.
Yeah.
Wonder what the yeah, whatever. At this point, Sirius did also pick up the charge dash ability with his ability points. So at this point, those thorough plays, finding a lot of ability cells, is pretty useful. Does take a bit of an annoying death there after checking the plant, but was gonna have to do a bit of backtracking anyways, so I don't think it'll be too massive for him. Charge dash is of course a very useful ability. It lets our runners go very fast. It lets us just move over a lot of space. It gives us rocket jumps. It gives us another form of blue breakage, but at this point is not actually in standard logic, and so any of the things you're going to see him doing with charge dash is not expected of him by the randomizer.
Yeah, I'm sorry for kind of interrupting you there, but Romulus having a bit of trouble with the spikes down there in the grotto area. This 4 life being a bit of a pain for him. He did decide to opt out after dashing into some spikes. Does find wind restored. Sirius, I think, skipped this, so if we find glide, that'll be very useful for Rom.
Yeah, very useful indeed. This, like you said, the 4 health and also the lack of ability cells, as he doesn't have air dash at this point, is really coming to get him. It does seem like he's pretty pleased with that wind restored find, and now has enough ability cells to get air dash. I won't expect it to be too long before we see him skill that up, because that will just make traversing with dash a lot easier. And air dash with enough ability cells is in standard logic, and so he will likely be looking to get that pretty quickly.
Yeah, there he goes, getting it. Due to those deaths in the Grotto Vault area, though, he has not found wall jump. I don't know. As we mentioned, they already have wall interaction, but that might come to bite him a little bit, that he didn't go and check those pickups outside. Of course, it's not in logic, so it was totally valid to skip them on his part, but yeah, he might come to regret that at some point.
Of course, Sirius, we now see clearing the grove area, not finding much, but of course doing the blind movement when he does the cutscene skip. You really love to see it from Sirius. But really hasn't found too much. He's been using his charge dash to good effect to get a lot of those high up pickups that would be difficult to get to. In that case, not in logic. In some cases, would be in logic with a more time-consuming path. But at this point, is really just making a lot of checks. There's, like I said, a lot that's in logic, a lot that there could be, and not a lot of it is particularly fun to do. So we're going to see our runners just making, plays, making lots of checks, clearing out areas, and just seeing who finds the next progression first.
Yeah, both kind of converging on the same area here from different sides. Oh, and Sirius finding Stomp. That is quite a good find for him. Hopefully, Rom will find that as well.
I believe
Charge
that
dash
is
efficiency, nice.
very useful. It would be useful, of course, if Rom had Charge Dash, but I believe Stomp is actually logical progression in here, because with Dash, that gives us access to Lost Grove, that gives us access to the Grenade Tree. Although, of course, that is a good point. I'm seeing it from our wonderful truckers that Stomp itself wasn't in logic because Sirius used a rocket jump to get up there, which means even though it unlocks Lost Grove, getting Stomp in the first place was not expected. So
Now it's in
progression. Oh well,
logic, of
there it
course.
is. There it is.
Yeah, and with
Conveniently,
that bash, he can get up here too and find the charge dash efficiency as well. So, yeah, we'll see. Oh, Rom, no, go back. There's things there. No. Oh no.
so it is worth mentioning that there are tricks you can do to not need Stomp necessarily. He did find Charge Dash efficiency, so you know he can do some Frankie lures to get into Blackroot anyways. But Bash in that case is going to put Stomp into logic, which means at this point the Grenade Tree is in logic. There is of course a lot of shenanigans that can be pulled on left side as we see Sirius making the play with the Valley Teleporter. He said he wasn't going to make as many aggressive plays this seed, not expecting to, but this is a pretty aggressive play from me here as he hits the dash glide skip, I believe, without making a backup. So hopefully this goes well for him. But, you know, a well-placed rocket jump and stomp can successfully knock out Bird here. At this point, like, I think with his skill set, Sirius has got what he needs. This is looking like go mode for him, honestly. He's making plays.
Yeah, he was very, very thorough before this, and it paid off, giving him wall jump, stomp, and the bash. But yeah, I think he should be completely comfortable finishing the seed with what he's got now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him sort of entering lumberjack mode, knocking down those trees, trying to find the clues for the two dungeon keys he still needs.
Yeah. With that said, it will be, with his current state at least, a pretty difficult escape. He's got only 6 health, no clean water. It's a pretty, I think it's doable, but that's a pretty difficult one. On the other hand, though, we see Romulus perhaps not quite as confident with his skill set. You know, maybe lacking that wall jump and stomp is contributing to that, but he's still making plays for like the swamp loop, is heading over to the swamp teleporter, and is still just generally playing thoroughly. Whereas, you know, Sirius saw that bash pickup and just decided, I'm done. We're gonna start knocking trees down.
Yeah, still checking what's kind of on the way. You checked that, Sirius. Oh well. Another keystone, sure, why not? He does still need one more, probably. There are a few doors he still needs to get through. So this isn't a bad idea. Taking our friend Ringo on an adventure here so he can break some floors for us.
Yeah, with that said, he looks like to be making progress towards the Stomp tree, which will be his 6th tree in the back of Swamp here, at which point we will get a clue for one of the required dungeon keys, of which our runners have found neither of up to this point. So that will be much needed information, and that will be guiding Sirius as he, you know, does still need to make some checks in the seed. As we now see Romulus in a pretty similar area at this point. Only really one tree behind is looking like he's going to be making a similar play for the Stomp tree, doing the exact same pathing that Sirius has been doing here. Just slightly behind, has not yet done that Valley Teleporter, so will not get his clue from this, but will be making progress towards trees at this point, perhaps recognizing that this is a very strong skill set, and he can at least target down some objectives with this.
Yeah, always hoping, of course, that there is something nice to be found on the way. Having a bit of trouble with this frog shot here. They are not always super cooperative, as we can see here. Oh, and we have our second clue. The sunstone is in sorrow.
Now, that could be spicy. Our runners do not have many ability points, and do not have glide, and do not have much in the way of health either. This makes, you know, traversing sorrow a very difficult ask. So depending on where that water vein actually ends up being, you know, our runners might be hard tasked just to get to the tree at this point, let alone making difficult plays for the water vein. We might still be in for quite the race here, depending on where that glide pickup ends up being.
Yeah, definitely. And whatever else our runners can find to speed them along the way. Of course, a charge jump would be super useful. A double jump would also make things easier. And we see Sirius heading to a part of the map we don't see quite so often. This lower part of Valley is often skipped simply due to the fact that we do not have a tree down here. And it's a bit out of the way.
Yeah, not only is this a bit out of the way, but Sirius, of course, at this point, does not have the Gumon seal. Really, the only thing of note, other than the pickups that are down here, that you would expect to be seeing is, you know, the Forlorn entrance, maybe planning on turning in a map stone, which he can do here. But there's not too much down here, so like you said, seeing this play is not super common. I'd be interested to see, of course, if it pays off for him. If this does happen to be Glide right here. No, unfortunately, that's asking a bit too much. But there are still a couple pickups that he can get in the part of Valley right before Forlorn entrance. So
He's
perhaps
just
at this
zooming through here now.
point, yeah, yeah, charge dash and bash, and this much energy will be a pretty easy skill set for him. Unfortunately, with only this last pickup being there, no, nothing really much down in Lower Valley, so that play not working out for him. Perhaps realizing that he is going to want some more convenient skills to make navigating the rest of the seed easier. Misty is doable, but not trivial with the skill set. As we mentioned, Sorrow is not a fun place to be. And at this point, those are really the trees left that Sirius has to do besides Grenade Tree. And so he might just be wanting to look for more skills to try to find something that will help him later on in the seed.
Yeah, no, it does look like he's heading into Sorrow now. This is maybe just hoping to find something quickly with those checks he can do fast, and then just deciding to go for the things he knows he can do. Or at least I assume he knows he can do this. And we do have Rom on the left going back to these checks here that were being a bit mean to him earlier. Of course, there was nothing there. He does get the wall jump that was in the water down there. But there was nothing else of note there. So he is still searching for things. We'll be going to Valley now as well. So still a bit behind, but also working on getting those trees cut down.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what play Sirius makes here. He's in kind of an interesting spot right now. Looks like he's going to be trying to respawn this frog. Yep. So he probably is making a play up here for the tree, I would guess. Baiting that frog shot up high.
Very good.
Yep, very well done. Without any kind of air stall, he was actually forced to charge dash into the wall and kind of hang out against the wall there, so that he could stay up long enough for the frog to actually shoot him. But that said, it is very well done. But he has taken a couple of unfortunate deaths just because he doesn't have any kind of air stall, and Sorrow is a very punishing area if you cannot stay in the air, if you cannot ride the wind. Now, of course, making this very tricky double bash. I would have expected him to go up, maybe just making a save there in case he messes it up and dies here. But this is pretty tricky. He's, at this point, digging for that water vein, I would guess.
Yeah, he's been using his charge dashes very nicely, charge dashing towards all sorts of enemies to make sure he stays in the air and away from all these spikes. I think he's maybe forgotten that he has grenade. And can grenade bash his way up there? Serious, please.
The final boss of the randomizer, remembering
Every
what
time.
pickups you have. Yep. Romulus now, we do see actually going for a pretty precise trick called Fast Stompless. You see him bashing a spider shot in a very specific angle here. The goal is going to be that he bashes a spider shot up over to where the rocks above Kuro's head are. If you head over to the right, then you can deload those rocks, or rather a different set of rocks, and that shot will actually destroy that platform and knock Kuro out for you without you needing to have Stomp or the Sunstone or Charge Jump, which you would otherwise need to break those rocks. It is a very precise lineup. The angle you need to shoot that's very precise. You need to get over to the right here to deload those rocks very quickly, and then you kind of just need to wait around and hope that you did it well. And so if we see it well, that one looked pretty good to me, although it's admittedly hard to tell. But yeah, if it works, you'll see, you know, cutscene jump over. You'll see Kuro fly away without us ever actually having been over there. This is a pretty difficult trick. He's definitely getting close to it, at least.
Looks a bit frustrated there, doing a little Ori dance. I'm always a fan of the Ori dance. On the other side, we do have Sirius taking a frog through these lasers. These lasers are, of course, insta-kill. And Bash freezes time while you're using it, so it's a bit difficult to get through here.
Does,
He's
of course,
doing
find
it.
the 1 XP. The most important pickup,
Yes.
of course. Thank you, Sigma, for that.
Yeah, now, of course, he has his Tumbleweed. Tumbleweeds are so much easier. They don't die suddenly. That's a Goomon seal, not quite what we're looking for. And that's just XP.
Now, it is worth mentioning at this point, Sirius is making a lot of tricky checks up here. There are 2 easy checks that he skipped that are part of Sorrow, being the Wilhelm XP and the perch that Kuro is sitting on, that kind of like egg pickup there. Did not check those. Those are technically part of Sorrow, and it could, of course, hold the key that he is looking for right now. So, possibility for sadness to occur, but regardless, is making good use of this Tumbleweed to traverse Sorrow in a very tricky way.
Indeed. I assume he's going to be taking either this one, no, the other one, to all the way up to the Dorito cave before the... Wow. Talking. Apple, please. Yes, taking the Tumbleweed all the way up to bash his way through the Dorito cave, and that way, negate his need for glide. We do know, of course, that there's still a water vein here somewhere. It's probably up there somewhere, because we haven't found it so far, and Sirius has been very thorough here.
He did, I think, actually skip the grenade pickup as well. So, like, that sunstone that he's looking for could, of course, be in those couple ones he skipped, which would be unfortunate. But you see him now double bashing this Tumbleweed a lot. This is going to save his ability points without needing glide. So this is going to be yep, pretty tricky play here. Of course, we now, on the other side here, see Rom making a play for the grenade tree. He did a dash lure called Reverse Frankie Walk to get that Frankie to, you know, walk onto the floor there. It stomped it for him without him needing to find Stomp, and now has used that to gain access down to the area where the grenade tree is. You see him making a couple checks here. This area at this point has actually been in logic for a fairly long time. A very nice amount of XP. Sirius now does find his Sunstone in the good level design room, so not going to be punished for skipping those easy checks in Lower Sorrow. Without glide or this Tumbleweed, that would be a very obnoxious check to make, so I'm sure he will be glad to see that is not what he needs to do. But at this point,
Aya wants to save here, does manage it. Wow.
And speaking of glide,
oh, no.
you know, I was expecting progression to be down here. I was not expecting it to be glide. I really love to see that.
Well, yeah, this makes things a lot easier for Rom. He still doesn't have Stomp, but yeah, he can just glide all the way up into and through Sorrow, negating his need to do any of this terrible strat that Sirius is here pulling off very nicely, I have to say. But yeah, he will not need to do any of this and can just float on up all the way. We'll be trying Fast Stompless here again, I assume? Oof, gets through on 0 life. Nope, heading up first by the looks of things.
Yeah, with glide and wind and bash, this is actually in logic to kind of, you know, ride the wind up here. He knows at this point, I believe he has his 6th tree, which means that he knows that the Sunstone is in Sorrow, which Sirius has found, and so perhaps might be hoping to find the Sunstone and then use the Wilhelm shot there to actually break the rocks, as opposed to needing to do Fast Stompless. Of course, having glide will make this entire series of checks much easier for Romulus to make than it was for Sirius. As you can see, he can just float up this wind that is all through the area trivially, as opposed to needing to do sketchy tumbleweed strats that Sirius was showing off. And while he did them very well, it's of course not easy to do.
He is heading up here immediately first. So look, going to the right, so he will find his Sunstone so much quicker than Sirius did. By the way, Sirius finding Glide, circling it. Probably not so happy with that. But yeah, Romulus has his Sunstone now, so can just glide on over to this tree and has saved quite a bit of time with that.
Yeah, actually, the fact that he went directly up to the Sunstone here as opposed to making all those lower sorrow checks that Sirius spent a lot of time doing actually is really good for him. He spent a lot of time early on in this race being very thorough and losing some time because Sirius skipped a lot of those checks that ended up not being relevant. But at this point, he's only one tree behind Sirius. Sirius spent a lot of time checking for that Sunstone and not finding it. So the fact that Romulus found that this quickly is really good for him.
Oh yeah, definitely. He just has to float on down again and let a friendly frog spit at him, which he can then send at some rocks and let them break those rocks. And yeah, so that's a very quick tree for him as well. And then he'll be following Sirius into Misty, I assume. Doesn't have the stomp, so might have to do some shenanigans to check at least one pickup just in case the water vein is in this area. Of course, our 9th clue will be for that dungeon key. So we will see both Sirius and Romulus checking everything here on the way down before getting that clue, just in case you do get the water vein Misty. Oh, he has remembered he has a grenade. That is very good. Yeah, and they'll be checking everything here so as not to have to backtrack this very linear area.
Yeah, now, of course, water vein being the clue we're going for. At this point, that water vein is really the only thing preventing Sirius from finishing the seed. On that note, we do not know where it is. There is still the possibility for water vein mapstone 9. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, it looks like Romulus did take a frog shot or a bird to the face. So we'll need to do this again. Should be pretty quick to do, though, if the bird doesn't get in the way.
Things in
There
this
we
do
go.
a fair amount of damage, as Romulus is discovering, and he's got enough health, but not a lot of health. And so, tricky setup for sure, getting it without much difficulty as we see Sirius now. At this point, just not too far ahead of him. Romulus is, in Misty at the same time as Sirius is getting to his 9th tree, doing, of course, blind movement, finding a water vein swamp. This is potentially not too bad, but potentially quite bad. He does have ultra defense, which means that he could potentially do the underwater checks, although that's not a whole ton of health. I think it's doable, but this could be spicy.
Yeah, if it does happen to be sitting somewhere deep underwater, I'm sure there are ways. I think I've seen people do it. I would not want to. But then these runners are still in the tourney and I'm not, so they're better than me anyway. And will probably know these strats.
Yeah, I think if it does end up being underwater, I think he can save drop an ultra defense there, and that will be enough health, but it is not easy to do for sure. We see him heading back here. There are a couple other checks he can make on the way that are not as annoying to do, which is probably what he'll be hoping the water vein will be at. That said, looks like on the other side, Romulus is in a similar situation health-wise, has not found his clean water either, and so is about to get that hint and is potentially going to be upset by it. We will see.
Yeah, probably. Sirius did swim all the way into Swamp, so already has that ultra defense, otherwise that would have not have been possible. I didn't quite see him pick that up. We'll be going for these outer swamp checks first, the ones he hasn't quite gotten to yet. This is a good idea. I would do everything else first as well before having to do the swim, using a save to save some time there as well.
All right.
And yeah, there's the ultra defense for Rom as well, and he'll be heading in the same direction.
All right, now we do see Sirius making the play for the underwater checks. He's got his save anywhere menu open. is perhaps planning on scumming these if necessary. Dropping a save there, actually, I'm interested to see that. I would have expected him to maybe scum that and come back, although he looks like probably at this point. A level up from that XP is actually going to give him a full heal from here. He'll be able to get to the bottom checks easier now. This is pretty well played from him at this point. The Ultra Defense is paying off huge for him because it's letting him make the swim without actually dying. And I think at this point he's found he's checked all of the above water pickups in Swamp as he's making his way underwater here to the sunk cost keystone. And generally just hoping to find something useful, looking for that water vein.
He's been doing this very well. Has that save anywhere open, but hasn't actually needed it yet. Just using the normal saves to heal back up in each area. Spirit Light efficiency, not quite what he's looking for. And one last check here. Is it the water vein? It is not. It's the Forlorn Teleporter.
So there is some above water check that he has not made. I don't think he did the grenade check when he was by
Next
the stomp
to the
tree.
tree, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he did that one. I don't know if he went up and did the energy cell that was up above that kind of hub area where he had originally dropped his spawn that you might be able to double bash a fish off of.
I think he did that one, yeah. I'm pretty sure the one we haven't seen yet is that grenade locked one next to the stomp, or underneath the stomp tree. I think we've seen everything else.
With that said, we do finally see him needing to use his zombie menu to get out from that underwater area. You can, of course, do the zombie, which is a trick where if you save right as Ori dies, you respawn with exactly 0 health, which is not less than 0, so Ori is alive, and you can kind of use that to progress further through areas where you would have normally needed to do a damage boost. Or rather, the damage would have killed you, you can damage boost through it. Ooh, and he also actually never did this double bash pickup here as well. So
that was understandable, I guess. But yes, we did forget that one. So it's probably this or the other one. Please, Sirius, you have a grenade.
He's got a grenade.
He keeps forgetting.
He used it too.
Yes, maybe he's just showing off. It could be, because that was a very
That's
nice.
where it is.
This scene is not easy, and there it is. Rom, please check that first. We want a close race here. Don't go down. No swimming. No. Oh, okay. Well, never mind.
They're both pretty gross checks to make. That
Yes.
double bash chain off the mortar shot is not trivial. And so at this point, the logic going through Rom's head at this point is you can make 4 gross checks at once, or you can get a one-off gross check and then have to come back anyways. So I think this routing makes sense. It is unfortunate that because we know where the water vein is, we know that Romulus is going to be falling behind now as Sirius. With that, is going to be able to use his grenade bash to make progress through the Ginso tree. This is his 10th and final tree, and once he gets there, I don't think there will be much getting in his way of finishing this final escape. Other than, of course, him hitting the dash button at the wrong time and flying directly into spikes.
Yeah. Did some very nice game storage there to do some blind movement again. Just getting up the tree a little bit faster. We do see Romulus heading towards where we know the water vein is, but it will most likely be too late for him, unfortunately. Ouch.
There is still the opportunity for, just well-done execution and some speed to occur. The only vertical mobility besides rocket jumps that Sirius has right now is that grenade bash. So this is not going to be a trivial escape for him. It's definitely doable, and for a runner of his skill, it's definitely feasible. But it is not out of the question that there are some mistakes that are made, and that ends up, costing him some time that Rom ends up needing to catch up here. So it's definitely not over yet, but at this point, Rom really needs to, get this water vein as quickly as possible and then hope for Sirius to just kind of die. It is definitely his race to lose.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we see him here getting his last tree. Very cleanly. There we go. We'll be heading into Horu Fields towards Horu to start his final escape.
We do finally see Rom saving next to this mortar shot guy, so he doesn't need to climb back up there again.
Yeah, as we see, Sirius made this look super easy. It is not. Not at all. Mortar shots are one of the worst projectiles that can be double bashed in the game. Gravity works differently on them than it does on Ori. They have very weird flight curves, and they're just generally not that much fun.
Yeah, there are like realistically two patterns you can go through here for this bash. It's either, you know, kind of make arcing shots above you and then intersect with it as it falls back down, or try to stay right next to it the entire time so you can double bash it as it goes. Luckily,
There we go.
Romulus gets it, remembers that he has grenade bash, and is able to quickly get his water vein. Will now be making quick progress towards the Ginso tree, just like we did Sirius, or just like we saw Sirius doing. Sirius, however, is at this point entering Horu, is going to be attempting door warp and starting his final escape soon. At this point, you know, 2-3 minutes ahead. This is going to be a big ask for Rom to catch up. We do see Sirius doing validation, though it is just a keystone. Unfortunate. The run is validated. Oh,
Ouch.
I think, yeah, the door warp saves there, so he'll be fine. But
Yeah, we'll get screamed at by a big angry bird and then run away for a minute or two if everything goes well, and should be finishing up here pretty soon. Rom just entering the Ginso tree, making his way up here as quickly as he can. And yeah, with the skills he has, even without the stomp that he did not find, which Sirius of course had, but it doesn't really change anything here.
Sirius's final escape, though, is looking pretty flashy. He's got stomp cancels, he's got charged ashes, he's got grenade bash. He's zooming through this area and hasn't even lost any of his, 10 energy in the process. So he's definitely at this point making quick work of it. He's got dashes for this glide room. He doesn't have clean water, but has ultra defense and bash at this point. Won't be too much of a trouble. He's going for fish strats, of course. He's got the setup for it. This is assuming he gets the rocket jump here. There we go. That is going to be GG for Sirius. Making quick work of that final escape, despite, you know, not having an ideal skill set. This is, you know, very well done from him. He'll be holding right and finishing at this point, probably about a minute, around 50 minutes. A pretty good time for a seed like this. Not having any kind skill key locations, rather finding both that sunstone and that water vein in a very unfortunate position. With that said, Romulus now is on his 10th tree, is not far behind here, is likely only going to be a minute or two behind. So a very close race for this. Sirius, I think, just having cleaner execution overall, and, you know, ended up not getting punished particularly hard for that kind of more aggressive play that we saw coming out from him, whereas Romulus made a lot more thorough checks and just didn't find anything for it, unfortunately.
Yeah, the time save at that glide, with that glide pickup, just unfortunately not quite being enough in this case. He still played this really, really well, showing off a lot of knowledge and execution here. And yeah, he just needs to follow in Sirius's footsteps here, head over to the Mount Horu. Ouch. Yikes. That was close. Don't get hit by the baneling. Very good. Good safety save, and up we go.
Yep. With that said, we see Sirius officially crossing the finish line, getting a time, a very pretty looking time of 59.99. I like seeing that, as Romulus is now hot on his heels, entering Horu right behind him. There is, of course, the option for violence here. We will see if Romulus takes it or door warp. I know what I want to see. I know what the audience wants to see. The question is, no, it looks like he's going for door warp.
We will not be blessed with any form of violence today. Not in Grotto, not here. There was some in Ginso, but I'm not sure that counts. That's mandatory. So, yeah. Oh, there we go! I am proven wrong!
Yes!
Woohoo!
The door warp trick does become more precise the second attempt. You have to hit up essentially as soon as you enter the area, and it does actually become a more precise timing if you fail it after the first attempt, which makes going for violence, especially with charge dash, a much more viable proposition, or a much more enticing proposition. We do see him coming out from him as he now starts his final escape. Yeah, and with a very similar skill set to what Sirius had, only really missing Stomp, I think he won't have much more difficulty than what Sirius did.
He can break all the floors with charge dash, has enough energy to do that. Also found the charge dash efficiency, so that shouldn't be any problem. Yeah, so Stomp won't make any difference here. He can maybe not use quite as many charge dashes simply for speed, but it shouldn't be a problem here at all.
Yeah, there are still, even without Stomp, plenty of ways to refund energy, and so you see, charge dashing into those lanterns. Has still only used one. He's got plenty. He's going to be able to bait an elemental shot here after using charge dash to break that floor, and is now going to make his way through this kind of S room here. He's got glide. This is not a problem, and is now going to be going for the swim here. No clean water, has ultra defense, and is also going to be lining up for fish strats. Doesn't quite get the double bash first, but is at this point. Ooh, there we
Ooh,
go. Okay,
okay.
almost missed the rocket jump there, but makes it up himself. That is going to be GG for Romulus. He now will also be holding right for about a minute and a half. And yeah, about only 2-3 minutes behind. This did end up being quite a close race. Yeah, despite some kind of unfortunate deaths and some unfortunate skips on both sides. Very well done by both runners.
Oh yeah, indeed. So we just need to watch Ori wander over, get snatched by a bird, and then Naru hop over. Romulus is aware that he has lost, so maybe we'll see some Naru hops.
Of course. So we're going to let him finish up here. We'll see at that point if our runners feel like doing an interview, and we can pull people in as finished. I see Sirius on deck now, so I think while we're waiting for Romulus to hold right, we will go ahead and pull him in and maybe ask him some questions. GG, Sirius. What do you think of that seed?
Thank you. I don't think much about it anymore. My brain is fried.
Fair enough. All right. Let's see. With that, I actually see Romulus hopped on deck right as we were getting started, so we'll go ahead and pull him in as well. All right. GG, Romulus. This was a pretty close race. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, GG, Sirius. I definitely felt like Sirius deserved that win. I felt like I had a lot of spaghetti in that race, and I looked over at my timer as I was entering Ginzo, and I saw he hadn't finished. I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's a chance. But when I saw he had finished, I was like, yeah, checks out.
Well, you were both very, very close, so definitely, yeah, GG to you both.
Nice.
There was a chance. Yes, there was indeed a chance. GG's to you as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So, first question I want to direct towards Sirius. So, you're looking for Sunstone and Sorrow. You decide to go there before you go to the grenade tree, which means you don't have glide at this point. What are you thinking when you eventually find the Sunstone up there in that Dorito Caves, and then when you eventually find glide on the grenade tree immediately afterwards?
Those sure are two moments. I mean, the first one, Sunstone in the Dorito Cave, is sort of what I expected going into there. It's unlikely to find Sunstone on a good spot in Sorrow if you don't have glide, because there are no good spots in Sorrow if you don't have glide. But giving it to me on the grenade tree was really just rude.
Yeah, Romulus, of course, made the play for the grenade tree first, so was able to save quite a lot of time there. What made you decide to skip all the lower pickups and go for the Dorito Caves first?
So my thought process was, all right, I know that it's in Sorrow, and I have glide, so most everything's pretty easy to get. I thought, why not just check some of the quick things on the way up that I would normally do? Because you can kind of, lose yourself if you go over on the left side and do all those checks. That can take a little while. And I didn't want to do that quite yet. So I thought, all right, I'll check things that are on the way to the tree. I may as well check all of Doritos since it's pretty quick. And then if I go to the tree and I still don't have it, then I'll probably, full clear top to bottom after that. So I got pretty fortunate that it was there in the cave.
All right, so this is one for both of you. I think it's interesting. You took kind of different routes, kind of the mid-game area, but you kind of converged on Bash at almost the exact same time. So I'm curious, once you found that, were you considering this to be a pseudo go mode, dungeon keys aside? At what point did you really think that you had the tools to complete the seed? I think we'll start with Sirius on this one.
Well, Bash is always a strong indicator. If you have Bash, you really just need two more things. You need something to break the walls in the final escape, I guess that was charge dash here. And you need a power skill to move. I don't know. I guess that was grenade here because of grenade bashes. I didn't really want to think about that go mode though. It was just eventually I was too lost to do anything else, and that's when I went to Sorrow, and going to Sorrow was also the point where there was no reason to dig for more skills because nothing was gonna be harder afterwards.
All right, that makes sense. How about you, Rom? Go mode for you. When do you think you found it?
So honestly, throughout most of the seed, I felt like I was missing something. Like, I felt as I was starting to like envision the final escape in my head, I felt like, okay, yeah, most things are doable, but to me it never really felt like, okay, this is go mode. But when I found Bash and when I found Glide, those were two moments where I thought like, okay, this is a nice comfort skill, and I feel a little bit better about finishing the seed from here.
Yeah, maybe another question for you, Sirius. You went to Lower Valley and cleared all the way down to Forlorn. What was the thought process there? A lot of people just don't touch that area at all.
I was definitely hoping to find something to do a different and easier Sorrow, and while I'm not completely sure about logic at all times, I think those were in logic for a bit, so I thought there was a chance to find something there. Didn't end up really doing anything though.
Yeah, understandable. I'm pretty sure it is in logic, so it's an understandable play, just not something we see quite that often.
Okay, I think one last question then. Sirius, with this win, of course, you will move on in the lower bracket. Your next matchup is against Fupio, who is actually trucking for us today and is on the call. I guess, what are your thoughts about that matchup and about the tourney as a whole at this point?
That's a pretty good matchup, honestly. Especially because I commonly excuse myself through Will of the Wisps randomizer developer work if I don't practice much, but Fupio is another person that does a lot of work on the Will of the Wisps randomizer as well. So I guess I don't have that excuse anymore. Yeah, otherwise I'll just wish him good luck as I'd wish good luck to anyone, and we'll see what happens.
I'm sure that'll be a very interesting race. And Rom, of course, you, unfortunately, with this loss, are out of the tourney. What are your plans for the time you maybe now have free?
So yeah, I definitely hope to pop in for commentary or trucking when I can. Still love everybody in the community, so not going anywhere by any means. But now that I don't need to practice rando quite so much, I'm hoping to get my all skills time down to a spot where I'm happy with it. So yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll wish you all the best of luck for that. And yeah, so that's pretty much it from us for now. We do have another race in roughly an hour. Also here on Speed Gaming 3, we have Jay Halcyon versus Enri. And yeah, that starts at 1 p.m. EDT, so please return for that. We also have 2 more races tomorrow. At 2 p.m. EDT, Trojan Dude versus Tridonite, and at 5 p.m. Evo versus Xemsis. Those don't have channels yet, so do check the schedule to find out where you need to go to watch those.
With that said, I believe that is all of the Ori we have for you right now. So I'd of course like to thank my wonderful co-commentator Apple for joining me today, our fantastic truckers Fupio and Skull for feeding us the information that we need when we can't focus on things, and our fabulous restreamer Griffs for making this all possible. With that said, that's all we've got for you today, so stick around later this afternoon for more races, and other than that, we'll see everyone later. Bye!
Bye!